Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen tries to steal my boyfriend. I kick her out of my house, even though she has nowhere else to go. After that, I can park wherever I want. And after that, am I the jerk for being jealous of my mother-in-law? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets kicked out. But where will I go? So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen tries to steal my boyfriend. I kick her out of my house even though she has nowhere else to go. My boyfriend, who's 30 male, and I, 28 female, moved into a fairly large house together last year. When all of the craziness started getting out of hand, we decided to open up our house to one of our friends, 30 female, and my boyfriend's cousin, 19 female. The friend who moved in with us, Kate, fake name, lost her job before all of this started, and 2 months ago, with the end of lease, she couldn't afford a place to live. My boyfriend and I have a common friend group that we have known since the college days, around 7 years. Kate joined this group 2 years ago. When our friends informed us of her losing her house, we decided, hey, we have free space. Come stay with us for a while until you can find a permanent solution. We also covered the food expenses while she helped with the chores. She accepted and moved in within a few days. When she first moved in, she was acting friendly with me, but as time progressed, she started becoming colder and colder towards me, but was still friendly with my boyfriend. A month ago, she started acting weird. While we were watching Netflix, she started sitting in between my boyfriend and me, touching or hitting his arm lightly when she was laughing, touching my boyfriend's neck or hair while saying good morning to his ear or trying to massage him constantly. I didn't know what to do, especially because my boyfriend was not saying anything at the time and I didn't want to be the crazy girlfriend. However, he sat me down a week or so ago and told me he was extremely uncomfortable by the way Kate was behaving. Let me tell you, I was so relieved that I was not the only one who was thinking she was acting strange. He said when I'm not around, her behavior only increases, and he didn't know what to do because he was scared of telling me this as he thought maybe he was overthinking it. We decided to speak to her if she did it again and went to bed happy. 2 days ago, I drove to my parents' house to visit them and help with their needs as they don't go out. I got a text 2 hours into my visit from my boyfriend asking me to come back home urgently. When I returned, everyone in the house was yelling and I was very confused. When my boyfriend saw me, he said that he wanted to talk to Kate about what she has been doing was making him uncomfortable, and apparently she didn't take this well because she said she did this with everyone, and when I took boyfriend's side, more yelling and calling names happened. We told her to get her things and get out. I thought our friends would take our side when we told them about this, but now the whole group is divided. Most of them say yes, she was wrong if she was making us uncomfortable, but that she is just a touchy person, and we were jerks for kicking her out during everything going on when she has nowhere else to go. I trust my boyfriend very much, as he has been nothing but an honest partner for the past 5 years. He said he decided to talk to her because she kept caressing his arm and touching his thigh, and he hated it. So I wanted to ask, am I the jerk for kicking her out? Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for kicking her out or not? Please let us know. OP's not a jerk, but that little homewrecker sure is. I can park wherever I want. I have 10 years of retail experience and 12 years of teaching behind me. I've seen my fair share of entitled people, but this one, oh boy. I live close to the beach, like a 10-minute walk. As you can imagine, with nice days, people park in our neighborhood, free parking, and walk to the beach. There's a lot of parking space, paid, close by. Parking is quite enough for the residents, but not for us and tourists who don't want to pay or can't get a parking space closer by. My dear husband and I decided to remove some poles from our front yard so that I can park my car there. It's small and fits just right, and there is enough room to get the bikes out of the shed and things out of my car. Our front yard is our property, to be very, very clear. Here is where the entitled people come into play. Last weekend, the weather was quite nice. Not too cold, lovely summer weather, and overall pleasant for this time of the year. Dear husband and I took our son out to the petting zoo. We chose to go with my car so that my dear husband wouldn't have to drive circles around the neighborhood afterwards. After a couple of hours, we come home to find someone parked in our front yard. Yeah, no, not your house, not your yard, so certainly not your parking space. We decide to call the non-emergency line from our local police station to ask for advice. They tell us to call a tow truck and that they would be coming over to supervise if needed. Okay, cool. Tow truck company is called, said they would be over in around 20 minutes. They had some other towing to do. TTC will be the tow truck crew. We've got entitled man, entitled woman, we've got my dear husband, and me. I decided to stay outside to wait for them. Tow truck company comes, we show proof of residence, and they start to do their job after getting some drinks from me. Mom always taught me to be kind and look after people even if they do the jobs you hired them for. They have their drinks, give a business card for the owners just in case, and leave. I go to my car and put it back in our own front yard. 2.5 hours later, our doorbell rings. The entitled people have returned from their extended walk on the beach. I open the door. Entitled man. Hello, our car was supposed to be here. Me. Yes, it used to be here. We had it towed as it was on our property. Entitled woman. But there's no sign, so we are allowed to park here. Me. No, you're not. This is private property, and we don't need to put a place card or something. We had checked that. Entitled mom. You little liar. You just stole our car and sold it. Me. No, I didn't. I have the phone number of the towing company. Trying to hand them the card. Screaming ensues from both of them. I'm still standing in the doorway. Dear husband is throwing anxious glances from our living room door. I'm 19 weeks pregnant, and he doesn't like the sound of what's happening outside. Then the fun begins. Entitled mom tries to force entry into our home. Dear husband sees this, pushes entitled mom out, and closes the door. Afterwards, we dialed for some blue-colored assistance. Meanwhile, we have a pair of banshees at the front door, ringing our doorbell and pounding on the door. A couple of minutes later, our blue-collared assistant shows up. My dear husband was not having me near them again. He went outside where the entitlement came wafting through the air towards us. He explained the whole situation to the cops while the entitled man and entitled lady were screaming things like, liar, thief. Dear husband even called the tow truck company and they affirmed they had towed a truck with the given license plate number. It came to a point where the cops gave the entitled couple two options, either leave willingly or leave with a couple of shiny bracelets on. They left, screaming. Tow truck company called us afterwards just to tell us how it went down and asked if we were okay. Told us they had loads and loads of fun by messing with them a bit. What would you do if someone parked on your property? Would you get their car towed? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for being jealous of my mother-in-law? Every year, my boyfriend goes all out for his mom on holidays and her birthday. He'll buy an expensive cake on her birthday and a fancy dinner. Last year, he gave her $300 in gift cards, and that alone doesn't bother me. She's a hardworking woman, and she deserves it. But the way he treats me when it's my turn makes me feel like crap. My birthday and Christmas are about 2 weeks apart, and he told me I have to choose either 2 small gifts or 1 big gift on Christmas. I always go all out for him on Christmas and his birthday, so it kind of hurt because he's very financially comfortable and I am not. This happens every year. I said I would wait for Christmas for a gift, but if we could go eat dinner on my birthday, and he said yes. Then today he asked me to order his mom's cake for him because her birthday is on Saturday. It's a very expensive cake. So as I'm ordering it, it's my favorite cake, and he knows this, although I have only ever had individual slices. I ask him if I can get one for my birthday too. I was asking more to see what he would say, since I would feel pretty bad if he spent that much money in a cake for me. He's also never bought me a cake on my birthday, even a simple grocery store one. He gets mad and tells me, "You pressure me. Remember, I still have to buy gifts." He also plans to spend a lot of money on his mom this year for Christmas, as always. They will also be going to a fancy dinner on Sunday as well, which I cannot attend for reasons that this subreddit will not let me post about. These things just make me feel really bad about myself. It makes me feel like maybe I don't work hard enough to deserve it. However, I also feel like that's his mom, and she does deserve it more than I do. I feel selfish for wanting to be given the same treatment as the woman who gave him life and has been there way longer than I have, obviously. For context, we've been together for 5 years. We want to get married and we're complete soulmates. He assures me of that every day, so it's not like our relationship is new and he's unsure about me still or something like that. I don't plan on bringing it up because I feel so guilty for having these feelings. But regardless, am I the jerk for feeling this way? Update. I spoke to him about it today after all of you helped me realize I wasn't just being materialistic. It started off bad. He said I was being selfish because he doesn't buy his mom anything all year aside from her birthday and Christmas, which is true. He does treat me to food often, especially on special occasions, like if I ace a uni exam or something like that. When we couldn't see each other because of what's going on, he would drop off food sometimes and got me a plushie I had been wanting for a while. Then he said I didn't even know what I was getting and made it seem like it's going to be something that exceeded my expectations. I said I was expecting less because of previous years, which upset him. I then explained it to him like this. I got upset when we were entering college together years ago, and his mom bought him a laptop and then bought his sister a laptop that was way better than his, even though she didn't need it. He didn't mind it at all, said I was overreacting. I told him my parents always treated my siblings and I fair with gifts. If I got a Nintendo DS as a kid for Christmas, then my brothers got one too at the same time. They always taught us that we had to be fair so nobody felt left out, and because they loved us equally. He has always gotten less than his sister, embarrassingly less, to the point where it's super awkward to watch them open presents. It doesn't bother him at all, even though it mortifies me. He literally doesn't care, says he knows his mom loves him the same and shows it in other ways, which is why I think he doesn't see why I am upset. When I explained it like this, he apologized to me and seemed to understand why I felt this way. He seemed hurt, asking if I think that's what determines his love for me. I said no, but regardless, it made me feel less. He calmed down and said it's okay to want gifts and that he thinks he understands that gifts are a love language for me. Not something I expect every day, but would want more attention on for my birthday and Christmas. And I was over the moon that he understood. I think we're on the same page, but we'll see how the holidays play out. Sorry for such a long update. Thanks everybody. You are all so kind to me and encouraged me to value myself more. Lady causes a scene over an ID. So, I work as a cashier at a retail store with a dog as the mascot. We sell all sorts of wares such as groceries, clothes, etc. We also sell alcohol. I love this job and 99% of the clientele is amazing. However, this one particular day, we got a bad egg. Now, store policy is that we check every single ID for anyone purchasing alcohol. It was one of the first things that cashiers were taught during training. The computer literally will not let us do anything but scan valid ID. So this one day, a woman comes through my lane. She's pleasant, at first. Let's call her entitled person. She made small talk at first, and I was ringing up her purchase. I typically try and ring up alcohol last since it can sometimes get in the way. When I do, the prompt comes up that I must scan ID. The following conversation unfolds. Me. All right, ma'am. May I see ID for this wine? Karen. Why? Me. Because I legally cannot sell you this without seeing your valid ID. Karen. I'm obviously older than 21. Me. Yeah, I understand, ma'am, but I cannot bypass without ID. I must scan a valid ID. Why can't you just input my birthday? I would still have to see valid ID. We only do that when the scanner is down. I would lose my job if I sell you this wine without a valid ID. I'm sorry about the inconvenience. If you'd like, I can suspend the transaction so you can get your ID. No, I'm just not going to get it. Okay, ma'am. So I finish her transaction, all while she's mumbling about not needing ID. I give her a receipt and she leaves. Or at least I think she leaves. As I'm ringing up the next customer, I notice Karen angrily talking to my coworker about a terrible employee who asked for my ID. My coworker later filled me in on the dialogue on our breaks. Here's how it went down. Karen. Excuse me? Coworker. Yes, ma'am? That girl over there asked for my ID. Coworker, confused. Ma'am, she's supposed to do that. She then explains the policy. That's ridiculous. Get me the manager. The manager walks over. Manager. Can I help you? Your employee, pointing at me, asked for my ID. Clearly I'm old enough. Manager, looking at me while I'm talking with other customers. She did the right thing. Legally, we cannot sell alcohol to anyone who can't present valid ID. That's stupid. I understand it's frustrating, but we cannot sell this to you without ID. Entitled parent then storms away, back to my line. I kind of sigh to myself as I know it's going to be a doozy. I greet her politely as if we didn't already talk before. Me. How may I help you? Karen. I want to return this. Her entire purchase, if I can't get the wine. She said this as if it was a threat. One more thing to note. The regular checkout lanes do not have the capability to process returns. There is a special guest service desk for that. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't process returns in this lane. However, my coworker over there at guest service, pointing to my coworker, would be happy to help you. BS. You can process returns. At this point, I've lost my patience. Me. Ma'am, I must reiterate that I cannot process returns. This register is not equipped with that software. If you'd like to return those items, you're going to have to go to guest services. It's at this point that my other coworker, B, joins in. B. She's right. We can't process returns in these lanes. There's no line at the guest service, so they'll be able to help you right away. Fine. She yanked up her items and stormed away, but not without one last exchange with B. B. Have a nice day. Karen. Oh, forget you. B. You too, ma'am. Later on, manager pulled me aside to tell me I did nothing wrong and praised me for doing the right thing. It's been about a week since this happened, and it still makes me laugh. Customer blames my employee for stealing something off his car that it was never equipped with in the first place. So I work as the service manager at a local car dealer. Basically, I'm over the entire service department, so most of my day is just dealing with complaints. But I had a new one yesterday, and that's something to say. So a customer comes in just for an oil change. This particular customer had never serviced any vehicles with us before. As soon as he checks out, he walks out to his car and pops his hood and notices that his engine cover is missing. Why would you go out and just happen to pop the hood open if you didn't already know it was missing? And proceeds to lose his ever-loving mind. Of course, I get involved. He claims that he just checked his oil yesterday and the cover was there, but now it's not. I walk back to my technician's work area to check and see if maybe he took it off and just forgot to put it back on, which can happen sometimes. In this case, there would be no reason to remove it because it's not required to do an oil change, but I figured I should at least cover all my bases. I check around his work area, his toolbox, etc., and there is of course no cover. I asked him if he noticed it, and he tells me that there was no cover on it when he opened the hood. So I basically tell Mr. Customer. I checked the technician's work area and spoke with him as well. It was not on the engine when he opened the hood. He continues to lose his mind and accuses my technician of stealing the cover. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Sir, I'm pretty positive he didn't take your engine cover to put on his entirely different make and model of vehicle." I told him I wasn't buying him a new cover. He proceeds to tell me that he'd be okay with a used one. Another red flag. If you were convinced that we stole it, why would you be okay with a used one? And I told him, just to make him happy, that if I came across a used one, if we have a similar vehicle traded in for example, I'll see if I can snag one just to make him go away. Fast forward to this morning. Walking by the detail department, there is another exact year, make, model vehicle that had been traded in and they were cleaning up for the lot. I popped the hood and no cover. Thinking there's no way it's a coincidence, I go to my parts department and ask them to price me out a new engine cover. I want the part number and price. Parts guy puts the VIN in and goes, "What engine cover? That vehicle never came with one." So this jerk knew there was no cover. He probably bought it used and there wasn't one there, and he assumed there was supposed to be, and brought it to us for a cheap oil change because he thought he could just freak out and we'd cave and he'd get one for free. So now I get to call him Monday to let him know that 1. He's not getting an engine cover because they don't exist for that vehicle, and 2. We will not ever service any vehicle for him at any point in the future. He is fired as a customer. Speaking of cars, what kind of car do you drive? Please let us know. Usually the Mercedes, but sometimes my Beamer. Am I the jerk for basically calling my in-laws' lifestyle pathetic after they tried shoving it down my throat? Thankfully, my husband and I have lived out of state for most of our 14 years together, so we haven't had to deal with ignorance from his family on how we live and or raise our kids. However, my father-in-law fell ill, so we moved back to the state to care for him, as my mother-in-law is far too old and weak to do so herself, and her daughters, who live in the state, couldn't be bothered. We've lived right beside them for going on 10 months now. We have a 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. Both are very intelligent, respectful, and insanely empathetic. We raised our kids in a way that was completely against how we were raised, which was basically to sit down, shut up, and never question a darn thing. My husband and I both had a very toxic childhood and were silenced when it came to everything. Ever since living beside his parents, they've attempted to inflict this onto my kids. Now, it started off small. Like father-in-law telling my 9-year-old that it was his duty as a man of the house to pick up an axe/chainsaw to cut the house firewood. Mind you, we do not have a wood stove, so my father-in-law just expected my kid to run outside with a chainsaw and hack up firewood for his house. When I said no, my father-in-law flipped out on my husband and said I was weakening my son and stripping him of his manly expected duties. Or my mother-in-law telling my 6-year-old that she is old enough to prepare and cook meals for the family. I only found this out a couple weeks ago when I got home from work and found a burn on my daughter's forearm from apparently a hot pan she was attempting to take out of the oven. Not only did she burn herself, but she also got the 5th degree from my mother-in-law, stating that her food was bland and that she needed to be better if you ever expect to get married someday. Anyways, I went to discuss these matters with my mother-in-law and father-in-law because I had it and they weren't listening to my husband. When I arrived, they were cross with me and said that they were concerned that my kids were going to grow up to be entitled snowflakes and that I'm raising them in such a way that they will never know how to fend for themselves or understand life. I told them that they needed to stop inflicting 50s livelihood onto my kids and that under no circumstances will my kids be restrained to a toxic lifestyle that people whom they barely know are trying to enforce. They told me to leave. I said gladly. Now, my sister-in-laws all of a sudden give a darn and have messaged my husband stating that his life has been tarnished by me and that I am destroying what his parents taught him. Independence, apparently, and the ability to live without need. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is Opie the jerk or not? Please let us know. A night of tears. This time, not in the walk-in. I've been serving in the same restaurant for almost 2 years now, but have been a server for almost 23 years total off and on. Last night was the normal busy Friday. Long waits, crappy guests, mediocre tips, and a smattering of amazing people in between. One of my last tables was a couple who were fun from the beginning, joking and laughing, truly acknowledging me and allowing me to say everything I'm required to say. After ordering, the wife tells me they're in no big hurry as this is the first time they've been out alone together in over a year. I had expected her to say, since lockdown, since I hear that a lot, but was surprised at it being over a year. I asked if they had come out to celebrate something or if they just didn't get out much, and she replied that they didn't get out much because they have a lot of kids. Of course I was curious, so asked how many kids qualified as a lot. She responded nonchalantly, 10. 10 kids? My mind was going crazy. I can barely afford one kid right now, and trying to keep him sane during all of this has been a struggle. How are they surviving with 10? I replied with something along the lines of 10 really being a lot of kids, and asked the age range of the kids. She told me 18 to 9 months. We joked about how there must never be a dull moment in their home and laughed a bit. Then she shared that all of the kids had been adopted. The 18-year-old most recently, and she had been surprised when they told her they wanted to adopt her. Apparently, her exact words were, "You want me?" That's when I got misty-eyed. These two people were so full of love, so kind-hearted, so grateful to have a night for themselves, I just wanted to do something for them. I went to my manager and said, "I want to ask you a question and you can tell me no, but I have to try." I then told him their short story and asked if we could comp their app or do something, just to make their night more memorable. He didn't even hesitate and told me he would do whatever my heart desired for them. They got my employee discount, 30% off their entire check. They enjoyed their meal, packed up their leftovers, attentively listened to the donations and gift card spiel I had to give them, and made a donation even. I then surprised them with the check. I told them that I wanted to do what I could for them, so I had given them my employee discount. I said I wanted to give back a little bit of kindness to them that they had given to so many. The wife asked me, "Why are you like the sweetest human ever?" I told her that I felt moved to do something and this was all I could do for them at the moment. She was crying. He was speechless. I started crying. It was just a touching moment. One of those pure, heartwarming moments. The discount they received was about $17. Their check was around $53 still, and they left me $30. Then told the manager I was the best person they ever had the joy of meeting. Moments like these are why I still enjoy serving. Am I the jerk for lecturing guests that they can't book under their nickname, which is not the same as their ID? I've gotten this too many times, and it gets to my head sometimes. I work at a hotel in Thailand, and here's the thing about Thai names. People's nicknames are very different than their real names. For example, in the West, somebody called Jefferson could have the nickname Jeff. However, in Thailand, the person's name could be Ying Luk, and their nickname is Pooh. That's actually the name of the former prime minister, and Poo means crab in Thai. 98% of the time, guests spell their names correctly according to their ID card/passport. If it's a minor spelling error, which is quite obvious, I will check them in. One of the things is that when we receive the emails from the booking engines, they specifically say, please ask the guest for a valid form of identification to make sure that it matches the name on their reservation. If it is a typo, I would inform the guest and just ask them to reconfirm their name. This time I got a check-in with the name Jane, name changed. When I see the ID, it says Emanuela Jefferson, obviously name changed, and there was no such name in the system. I asked the lady to reconfirm what her reservation is under, and she says, I reserved it under Jane. She said the previous hotel had no problem finding a reservation. I calmly explained that I am not allowed to check her in without a matching valid form of ID. However, since I was the manager, I didn't want to ruin their day, so I asked for her booking confirmation to copy, and sure enough, on her phone it said Jane. I was so fed up of this happening because it happened before with a lady who put her nickname instead of her surname. Our system sorts by surname, so it was very difficult to find her reservation on a busy day. So I decided to give her a lecture. I did have a natural CS apology voice, so I used that. Ma'am, I will make an exception this time to allow you to check in using this name. However, when you are making the booking, the website asks for your first name and surname, which matches your valid ID, not your nickname. I'd like to warn you that some hotels may not give you the room because the reservation is under a different name, depending on their policy. Please do reserve the room under Emanuela Jefferson next time. I even showed her the message from Agoda, the website she booked through, asking us to match the name on the reservation to the ID. She was quite mad that I said this to her and said that it was pointless and I was being an unnecessary jerk. When she goes to a hotel that has a stricter policy, she'll probably get it. So Reddit, am I the jerk?
My son is a professional gamer, so he must get this for free.
So, I'll tell a little bit of backstory. In Finland, we have this thing called TED, which is like a work experience thing. In the 8th grade, it lasts a week. I was 14 and I had taken a job in a tech store. It was good. I am somewhat nerdy and I know about technology and computers. This is all translated from the Finnish conversation. I am a high school student and my English might have some mistakes. We've got entitled kid, esports kid. We've got entitled mom. We've got me. We've got the store manager, Pekka, change name. So I had been working there for a few days and it was Thursday, around 2 p.m. I had about an hour left of work time since the TET rule said that the work time was 6 hours. I was behind a cash register desk, filling the cabinets with some phones that had arrived in a shipment that day. Then the entitled mom and entitled kid entered in. The store manager was in the storage. The mom was in her 40s, and the kid was about 11 to 13. Me. Hello, welcome to the tech store. How can I help you? Entitled mom.
Good afternoon. My son is looking for a keyboard.
I point to my left where the gaming products were, and they were mostly Razer products available. The others were sold out, and the store didn't have much of the accessories. Me. On that shelf. Feel free to look around.
Thanks.
The entitled mom and the entitled kid walked over, and I kept on filling the cabinet. I heard some discussion from behind me, but I didn't bother to listen to it. Sometime later, I was done and looked over to them. They were looking at the prices and thinking about it. Me. Need some help? Entitled mom.
Yeah, I don't understand the difference between this Black Widow Ultimate Chroma and this Ornata Chroma. They look alike. Can you please tell me the difference?
Entitled kid.
Mom, the Black Widow is better. It's mechanical, like I told you.
The kid had this high-pitched voice, a really irritating one. Me. Your son is right. The difference is that the Black Widow is mechanical and has faster response times than the Ornata, which is mechanical. The Black Widow is also more expensive, but that is logical since it was mechanical. The entitled mom looked over to the entitled kid who was smiling. Entitled mom.
We will take this one then.
The entitled mom walked to the register and I scanned the barcode. The keyboard was 129 euros. Me. All right, ma'am. That will be 129 euros.
What? 130 euros for a piece of plastic? What the heck?
Me. Calm down, ma'am. It's the normal price.
My son plays competitively. He needs this.
Me. Really? Well, what does he play? The entitled kid looked at me.
I play CSGO in a professional team.
I just looked at him, holding my laughter. This kid just told me that he plays a K through 16 game professionally. It was hilarious. K through 16 is the equivalent of the ESRB rating teen. Me, sarcastic tone. Oh, really? What is the team name? The kid smiled more. His smile kinda looked like a troll face. Entitled kid.
Our team is called Killer Bee Esports.
I just bursted into laughter. This kid had just told me a group that I didn't know of. I laugh. Hold on, I'll check. I looked up the team on my phone and found a Steam group and looked at it. The members had ridiculous names. I was laughing so hard because the kid was so serious about being professionals. Me. I'm sorry, kid, but this gaming group is far from being professional. Even if you were professionals, I couldn't give you this keyboard for free since you aren't sponsored by us. The store was a part of a chain. The mom was looking at me, being very angry.
What are you laughing at? He is a professional gamer. He is good. I have watched him play. We need to get this for free. You are so rude, young man.
Me. I'm sorry, but he's not a professional. I see no awards or anything to reference some sort of esport activity. Entitled kid.
I used to play for the 3D Max Juniors.
That doesn't exist, and that isn't even finished. I just laughed even harder. I couldn't help it. This kid was so bad at lying. Are you kidding me? Look at you. You're not old enough to play CSGO. Not professionally.
His age? That's your best argument? How old are you?
I'm 14.
You're 14 and you call my son young? Shame on you.
It's my TED week, so it's part-time. Entitled mom was looking at her son with a weird smile, and the kid smiled back. She turned to me.
We'll make a compromise. I will pay the full price.
I was getting suspicious from the tone of her voice, which had turned to a kind and soft voice. And
I get those headphones from the shelf.
Points to a pair of Razer Kraken 7.1S, 110 euros. I looked at her with an annoyed gaze and stayed quiet for a moment. Are you kidding me? You're asking for a keyboard and a headset for the price of one? I explained to her that we have some bundles sometimes, but she just can't make one out of thin air. She just looked at me, annoyed.
Let me talk to your manager.
Okay. Points to some security cameras. Don't think of trying to leave. You have cameras watching you. I walked to the warehouse and called for the store manager, Pekka, to come and help me with a customer. Surprisingly, the entitled mom and entitled kid hadn't left. Manager. Hello, ma'am. I'm Pekka. What seems to be the problem?
Your part-time employee is rude to me and makes fun of my son.
That's not entirely true. She claimed her son is a professional gamer on a team, and they are trying to get equipment for free. Manager. Ma'am, is this true?
No, he's lying.
The manager just stood there, looking at the angry mom, her kid, and me. I'll check the camera recordings. He said that and went into the security room. Sometime later, he came out. Ma'am, I have to ask you to pay for the keyboard and leave.
What the heck? He's rude to me and my son. We need these for free. My son is traumatized after your behavior.
Manager. The other option is for you to not pay and leave without the keyboard. Entitled mom just looked at us and hesitantly paid for the keyboard and was about to leave until she yelled from the front door.
You lost a customer for life. I'm not coming back here ever again.
Despite her actions, my work experience went well. I got good points for the work. Sometimes when I go to the store, I talk with Pekka about the pro player kid and we laugh. Surprisingly, the entitled mom or the kid never visited the store anymore.
Karen's gonna get ya. Unless you come watch this video next, you will love it. And I'll give you a special shout out in tomorrow's video if you join as a channel member today. And now you can have us make any kind of video you'd like us to. Just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.